a year before she popped off, she said, maybe God has a different plan for you. I started laughing because I was like, Mommy, I'm going to give it one more year. And if I don't break through in the year, then okay, I'll assess something else. I was a receptionist at the gym. I was a bottle service girl on the weekends. And then I was linking with people online who wanted to make music.
What's something you wish someone had told you in the beginning of your career?
You want to be great, you got to listen to the greats and you got to mimic the greats. And that shifted a lot for me, getting better as a singer.
Do you think you've made it?
It depends who you ask.
Let's ask little you first.
Yeah.
You made it?
Yeah.
Let's ask teenage you.
No.
What does she want?
She wanted world domination.
What about adult you?
Oof, adult me wants peace. Yeah. Money will make you happy. And a life well lived is a life rich in memories.
NMPA is the premier organization for music publishers and their songwriter partners. It's their mission to increase the value of music, and that's exactly what they do. NMPA is working right now to raise royalty rates for songwriters from streaming services, radio, social media, and everywhere music is essential. From the courts to Congress, NMPA works to get songwriters what they deserve. I know because I've served on the board before, and I'm the current co-chair, along with Ryan Tedder and Liz Rose, for the Golden Platinum Club. So again, thank you NMPA for supporting And the Writer Is and songwriters everywhere. Welcome to And the Writer Is. I am your host, Ross Golan. There are millions of singers and thousands of artists, but only 40 songs per genre at a time. This podcast aims to shed a light on those creators who make those songs. I produce this with my friend Joe London in association with Mega House Music Group. Special shout out, Charlotte Isidore, Jad Saad, and Michael White. And you can follow us at And the Writer Is on all your socials. We'll see you there. Now, this week's episode.
Welcome to And the Writer Is. I'm your host, Ross Golan. Today's star writer is a truth teller with a pen like a blade and a voice that cuts through the noise. She's a first-gen Colombian-Canadian who busked beaches, bartended, and turned heartbreak into triple platinum anthems. From Toronto to the Grammys, from writing with Eminem to working with Beyoncé, she's built a career on fearlessness, fire, and feeling. Her songs don't just play, they hit. Now, with her third studio album, she's diving even deeper, blending sharp storytelling with emotional grit, and proving once again that vulnerability is her superpower. And the writer is Jessie Reyez.
Hey, that's quite the introduction. Come on, alliteration, fearlessness, fire, and feeling. Okay, come on, Ross.
All right, I like it. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Okay,
I'm
good.
good. How you doing?
Good. I was asking if you're, if you live in LA and you're like, I sometimes in LA, sometimes in Canada. Let's start from the beginning. You're a Canadian. You were born in Toronto.
Born in Toronto.
Who's your family?
What was my family?
Sure. Who? What?
My dad is a great Sagittarius man.
Okay.
From Cali, Colombia, who played a bit of guitar and took my ass to church, and we'd sing in the choir together. My mom is a Virgo saint, also from Cali, Colombia, who's a great lady, who's a baby whisperer, who I'm blessed to have as a mom because she let me be myself early on, and it inculcated an intuitive sense of who I am and having that given to you as a gift as a child. Having that been given to me as a child is a gift in my adulthood because I see a lot of adults scared to be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's who my parents are.
With your dad playing guitar, what kind of guitar did he play? Did he play music like was it regional from where he was born? Was it living in Toronto? Was it folk? Like, what is he playing on guitar?
A lot of old Colombian music, which is so funny because sometimes, especially now, like, it's just your first introduction to music is your parents' palette and your parents' library, And I remember when I first started coming out here, or even first started interacting with like um first or second generation Canadians that had a different history of what their musical introduction was as a child. And that was it was almost like my old school wasn't other people's old school. My old school was very different. Very, very different. And my dad would play like boleros that are like so old. Boleros that were so old. There's one called La Historia de un Amor that he plays on guitar. That is it's just so beautiful.
How does it
And
go?
Ya no estás más a mi lado, corazón. En el alma solo tengo soledad. Y si ya no puedo verte, porque Dios me hizo quererte para hacerme sufrir más. Ooh, that's not the right note at the end, but that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. And it's very, very like, very thick with poetry. Very, very thick with imagery. Very, very like, it's got meat. It's got meat that, if translated in English, runs the risk of sounding cheesy. That's the difference of like if you were to translate Latino music and then compare it to English music. That's, in my opinion, one of the very significant lyrical differences, and that influenced me as a writer too, because it just, I noticed the difference and I was like, huh. So I've had to be aware of that boundary, and I have a good time like pushing that to the limit where I could be as honest and raw and full of imagery and full of passion in the lyrics, but cognizant of not like cognizant of playing dangerously close to that line, to the cheesy line.
When you were little, was Spanish spoken in the house or English?
Only my Spanish is my first language. And
Okay.
then I didn't speak English till I went to school.
Was that hard to be in Toronto and have English be your second language?
Yeah, it was. I had an accent for a few years. Bullied a little bit over it.
Really?
But it's fine. It made me, give me thicker skin, you know?
Do you know who any of those bullies are?
Yeah.
Do they know what you've done with your life?
Yeah.
Is there any part of you that finds solace in that?
That they know? No. Because I don't want to, I don't, because that would mean that they're not happy, and that makes me sad. So I hope not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, genuinely, I hope not. But also, everyone's got their tribulations. I mean, I'm sure that someone's looking at my life, they're like, oh my God, Mama, no, I got problems too. But I just don't outwardly talk about them because I know how fucking insensitive that sounds. Because some people will look at you and be like, you're living your dream, you're in Hollywood, like, how could you have any problems? So I know people aren't going to empathize with the problems that I do have. So I just deal with them on my own. But that's the higher self talking. And then there's
Sure.
like 1%,
Yeah,
2%
sure.
of me that's a little like, yeah, bitch. But
well, man,
that's only like
I had a friend of mine was like, do you want to get dinner with my priest? And I was like, yeah, okay. I've never had dinner with a priest before. I have to do this.
that sounds like a movie. Dinner with the Priest has to be the title of something.
It should be.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were getting dinner, and my friend is a successful actor, and it was, both of us were talking about how a big part of our motivation is proving some of those people wrong from our childhood, and that we don't want to admit that because like we're grown-ups
Yeah,
now.
did you see that nice little around the bush way that I came to?
Yeah, but
Isn't
like,
that funny?
and he's like, you have to give some appreciation to those people who gave you that thick skin.
Chip on your shoulder works as gasoline.
Yeah.
Do you know those people? Do you remember them?
Oh yeah.
How many?
I think that there's specifically two people and a few people who run around that I still think about now, almost 30 years later, and I know what I've accomplished and how important my community is, and a big part of my giving so much to my community is to offset that. I think that changed like how I work within the songwriting world.
What
It's
do you mean?
like because I just want to be like a person who brings love into
Like
into that
supportive.
community.
Yeah. As
To be like
opposed to the pullback.
yeah.
Wow.
And I really think that that's been a big part of the
Like why you're so great in terms of what you contribute to community because it
that
wasn't given to you.
yeah.
Wow. Look at that.
I don't know.
Crazy.
What do you do to like
To
like
don't not turn into the villain.
yeah.
I try to be empathetic.
Yeah.
I try to be empathetic but in terms of like paying it forward, I mean, I came out of this project called the Remix Project and I continue to work closely with them and yeah, I do my best to offer legitimate, tangible advice anytime that someone tries to show me their music. And I always preface it with like, do you want me to just take it in or do you want me like I try to be
Yeah.
honest, but in a way that's gonna be helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Constructive.
Constructive and like yeah, I do my best to do that and I've learned how to condense it. Where like if a fan's like if we're meeting somebody and the fan's like, oh my God, I love your music. I sing too. Can I show you some stuff? And I'm like, sure. And I'm like, and I've just mastered a way of how to do it delicately but poignantly. Like
Yeah.
delicately but very like potently.
That's a skill. Did you learn how to communicate criticism from anyone specifically?
My dad is very direct. My dad's very direct.
Direct in a tactful way?
No. But my mom is very delicate. And I think I by default found the midline because I've gotten both extreme ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's why. And also I was like, I mean, as you said it, fearless is one of the F's in my in my 3-point
Alliteration?
yeah, in your 3-point alliteration, that's one of my significant points. And I think I've always kind of chased it. Like put myself in situations where I was like, all right, well, this is what I'm scared of. So let's go, let's do it. And it's a double-edged sword though, because of the bullying, because of my mom letting me be myself, and then another double-edged sword, like putting me in situations where I was, because as a kid, most kids are to like assimilate and like hide, blend in, camouflage. Because the second you stick out, all eyes go like this.
Mhm.
Fucking half-baked brains start throwing things at you, and then all of a sudden you got these little traumas that you walk around with until you grow up and learn what alchemy is, and then learn how to figure it out. But till you get to that point, you're kind of walking around with it. Now that I'm at that point, I'm like, oh, fire. As I said earlier, where I'm like, this is a gift. This is a little gift I was given, and I could, and I can determine when I want to take criticism, and I can determine when it's just bleachers beacon. But something that I learned in the last several years is everyone is not built that way, and it's not their fault. Everyone just has a different life, and some people are more sensitive, and some people are not prepared for the truth. And some people's egos don't allow them to like take a higher position so they can look at things from an aerial view and realize that your criticism is a gift. Because if I didn't care about you, I would just be like, yeah, you're doing great. Or yeah, but like if someone is having a difficult conversation with you or telling you a truth that maybe isn't that savory, it's because they actually give a fuck.
Mm.
So I think being the midpoint between my dad's bluntness and my mom's delicacy, my mom's delicate method has given me tact in how to deliver it and be cognizant that everyone's skin isn't as thick as mine. But also, if you only have 5 minutes with me, and I might be the only person to tell you the truth, I'm going to do my best to like give it to you with a flower.
What's something you wish someone had told you in the beginning of your career?
I like where things are at. These questions always fuck me up because I think about the butterfly effect and I'm like, if things would be different, for example, I'd love to be a master at the piano. And I started piano when I was 3 and then I dropped it. But then I've also encountered a lot of people that are like, it's probably a great thing that you don't know theory, because sometimes when people know theory so in depth, like so thoroughly, it makes them a different musician because they have a difficult time thinking outside the box. Not to say that that's every musician, but it might have been you had you been given that so militantly. So maybe there's pieces of advice I got late that I almost wish I got early, because I mean, I remember working with the vocal coach early on because I went in for an audition for a girl group and I fucking sucked. I sucked. I couldn't stay in key for nothing. And I had played them. When I went in for the audition, I played 2 songs and one was an original. And I was so nervous. And I sang like I sang a classic and they asked me how I felt about that person and then I described the wrong person because I was just so nervous and they were like, girl. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then I walked out and I was damn near in tears and my folks were waiting for me upstairs. I think my dad was in the whip. It was like somewhere in Toronto. And this guy ran upstairs and he was like, hey. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, listen, he's like, that was a little rough. He's like, but you got something. Would love to work with you if you're down. Like you show potential.
Wow.
And I was like, thank you. And this guy, his name was Tyson Furry. He was one of my first vocal coaches. And we went in together. He's the one that really taught me how to, first of all, stay in key because I would always cheat and like jump into a next octave. Like I had a general sense of pitch, but I would cheat all the time. And he was like, commit to it. He's like, you want to be great, you got to listen to the greats and you got to mimic the greats. And so we started going through like American anthems. That's why I know the American anthem as a Canadian at a young age because he like was like, look at Whitney's, look at this, look at that, and just mimic it until it's just second nature to you, and then get another great, and then mimic it till it's second nature, and that shifted a lot for me. And we only had like 4 sessions, if that might even be generous, but it was enough that it changed how I approached getting better as a singer. And if I had that, like I was a teenager. I was like 16 maybe, or 15 maybe. And I can only imagine how much better I would have been had I gotten that early. But again, like I think everything happens how it's supposed to. Everything happens how it's supposed to.
You were writing music and you brought it into a girl group audition. One is, what's the first song that you wrote? Like, what is that? Was that like the first song that you wrote that you brought into this audition?
Mm-mm.
And why are you going to girl group auditions?
Because I knew I loved this, and I was just taking every and any opportunity I could find to get in. And it was one of the earlier songs, but it wasn't the first. I was writing songs when I was like tiny, like I was like 10, 11.
What's the first song you wrote?
So ironic. The song was something about like not growing up too fast. Like a 10-year-old writing about not growing up too fast. How dramatic.
It's what?
Isn't that ridiculous?
How does your first song
Pompous. Go? Who the fuck knows?
You really don't know?
Ew. It was something like, it sounds so S Club 70, bro. It's so lame. I want to say, and this might be the power of suggestion, because watch someone be like, this exists, and I'm going to have mangled memories, because you know how that happens sometimes, like they mix. It might have been something like, don't grow up too fast. Oh, you know what? My melody retention is a little suspect, but my lyric retention is elite. Something like don't grow up too fast, enjoy the good times, like something like that. It was such a joke at 10 years. Doesn't that seem like hella dramatic? Like, okay.
My first song was called Steve the Dog, so I think you beat me on that. But I will say this, like, I don't remember, I have no lyric retention, like almost none. I can have muscle memory if I practice something enough, but I have incredible melody retention.
Wow, that's
like,
cool.
I can sing anything that I heard.
What was the melody to Steve the Dog?
Oh, I mean, I could probably play it for you on guitar. Like, I know it, like, it was really kind of abstract, and where like like the verse was really different from what would be the pre into the chorus, but the chorus was really sing along. It was a whole like Steve the Dog, and we had like the other guy go like over me and like Steve and do all this thing, and like we would get my high school chorus to sing
Fire.
it, so it'd have this whole really dramatic effect. That's true. And a little off topic, but so when did you realize you were writing good songs?
16.
You were so quick at that. Why did you know at 16 you could write good songs?
Because I was heartbroken. I couldn't be in class because I'd cry. I couldn't be in the caf because I'd cry. So I'd find refuge in the corner room of the music room in Mr. Ladousseur's class. And one of my girlfriends, Mona, who's still one of my best friends, whose kid is my godson, she would come looking for me, and she'd find me in there fucking face covered in tears, draped over a guitar. Anyway, she came in and she's like, "What are you working on?" And I showed her my song, and I looked up, and it was the first time that I saw someone get emotional over something I'd played. Like, she felt it, and and I'll never forget. It was the first time I saw this make that happen.
What was that song?
Fuck.
Do you need the guitar?
I do need the guitar.
I'm sure we
No,
can do
actually, no.
this.
Fuck that. Fuck that.
What?
No.
Oh,
Just
okay.
kidding. Something, one of the lyrics in the first line was, "You might have thought something die alone."
Mm.
Yeah, that was and it was just the saddest 16-year-old heartbreak song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish our 16-year-old selves could be having this conversation right now.
What do you you'd want someone just fucking tears? It would have just been tears.
But my 16-year-old self was doing the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's when it's like I got a Tascam 4-track tape recorder. There was no YouTube. I don't know how I learned how to record. I don't know why. I got a free microphone because I sang with like the Grammy High School All-Star Jazz Choir.
Fire.
And they gave
No
me,
big deal.
And they gave me a free Shure microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I got to plug it into something. And I was like, but it was like 16 years old and being like, I don't know. I knew exactly what to write about, but it was just like, that's when I went into like hibernation of like, it wasn't a career thing. It was like an emotive, like, this is my friend.
This
Like,
is my friend. I love that sentiment. That's nice.
When you finish high school, you're pretty determined at this point to pursue music. Toronto's something of a hotbed of music, but you kind of have to have a lot of chutzpah, if you will.
Chutzpah. The Yiddish, the throwing in your chutzpah. Okay.
to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go straight into music. Did your parents, as immigrants, like, I'm second generation, but like there's still was like a expectation that I would be, that I would have a job that was normal. My family was supportive of me doing music, but still there was, my grandparents didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
How did your family deal with the idea of like, I'm not going to go to to secondary school. I'm going to just pursue music.
They were a little nervous. My mom, funny enough, she just wanted me to do it legitly. She was like, "Why don't you go to?" I can't believe she said this. She said, "Why don't you go to music school?" And in my head, I don't know where the hell I got this, but I was like, "It's gonna be a waste of time. I gotta do it another way." Because like, what's being in a school? I didn't understand that like there's obviously upside to it because you can network horizontally and people that you're in school with, like you could connect, you could work, especially if it's music because it'll be more focused. And but in my head, I was just always very anti-institution. I fucking hated school, and I just had it in my head that it needed to be a different way, and that it was gonna be a waste of money. I didn't want to use her money for it. I didn't want to go into debt either. So then I pump faked my folks, and I was like, I'm gonna work for a year after high school, and then I'm gonna use that money, and then I'm gonna, then I'll do it. And they were like, okay, and then that 1 year turned into 2, and then 2 years turned into 3, and then 3 years turned into 4. So funny. I remember one of my older friends, she was like, "How are you doing this?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "How are you not in school?" Because all my friends were in college. All my friends were in college. And I wasn't. I was a receptionist at the gym. I was a bottle service girl on the weekends. I was a CFL cheerleader for the Toronto Argonauts in between there when it would fit in. And then I was linking with people online who wanted to make music and recording in random Toronto closets. Somehow made it out okay, but the hustle was real. And my folks were worried. And my brother took more of a at least it's in terms of like school and study. He's a scientist. He's a teacher. He works at York U. Like, and we just had different different. We were just different. So they expected something different out of me. And the thing is, I excelled in school until my emotions got involved. And then when my emotions got involved, shit went left. So I think it made them even more frustrated because they saw the frog sing in private, and then the frog in public was like, I'm not dancing anymore. When they know that I had it in me to do it. But whatever. I was also very stubborn. So they were like, well, okay. And would bring it up and I'd be like, yeah, yeah. And I'd go hustle, go work, go do random shows in Toronto. Oh my God. Random bar shows where there was like 2 people there. And then my folks would come. And sometimes my aunt would come and my uncle Piti and my tia Albita. Like they would just come and it would just be like 3, 4 random young people, the bartender, 1 waitress, and my 4 family members. Oh, it was really sweet.
Is this you playing on guitar at that point? Or are you playing, what are you, when
Guitar.
you're saying you're doing, is it just solo, just you and a guitar?
Me and guitar, some of them was me and track with this rapper who I met online called Dominican, who's fire. Random shows on College Street in Lula Lounge, random shows at Supermarket. One of my friends from childhood named Chris gave me I can't remember what this venue was called, but I linked up with a high school friend of mine who played drums. So, so it was just me on guitar and my boy on drums. This is 10 years ago. I'm not even good at playing the click now. So it just imagine like it was rough, man. But they were supportive even though they were scared. And my mom, she said this a few years ago and it's crazy because I have no recollection of this. She came to me like she was coming to drop off a confession. And like I was the priest and had see-through vision. That was the weight with which that was the weight she came to me with. And I was like, what's going on? And she was like, Mia, I just can't believe I said this to you. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like 2 years or a year before shit popped off with Figures. She had said something. She was like, because I'd been at it. And my work ethic has always been fucking elite. When it comes to music, elite. So she saw me at it. And she's like, Mija, it's been so long. Maybe it's not for you. Like maybe it's not, maybe God, she said specifically verbatim, she said, maybe God has a different plan for you. Like maybe God has a different plan for you. When I tell you, I started laughing because I was like, Mommy, because she's always been so supportive that sentence didn't even permeate, didn't land, didn't leave a crumb, didn't leave a book moved. It didn't even make I started laughing because she looked like it had haunted her.
Yeah.
And I had told her, Ma, I'm gonna give it 1 more year. And if I don't break through in the year, then okay, I'll assess something else. And then she started moving obviously after, but it was just so cute. And I told her, like I had to lift weight. I'm like, you've always been so, like it didn't, if anything, you've built me into this, that kind of sentence wouldn't even, like didn't even matter. But I thought it was just really cute that she seemed so, so guilty, so concerned, so worried that it had made an impact or that she had said it. If you knew my mom, you'd understand why it was so funny because she's so not that. And you'd see why it would have hurt her. It would haunt her.
It's amazing how many things we all have probably said to people that we still internalize, that we assume have affected somebody in a certain way, and the other person didn't even hear it. It's weird. I think what's interesting about musicians who pursue a career in music is that people conflate education and higher learning with school. And I happen to like what I learned in school, but there are a lot of people who pursue the university of the music industry, though it's sort of the way you do. You are exceptionally articulate. Where did you learn to speak so eloquently?
I read a lot of books. And I was lucky enough in grade 7 to have this teacher named Mrs. Hidden. I always think it's so funny because she found the hidden talent in me. but I would participate in a lot of poetry. Like there was a poetry competition, and I participated, and there was a poetry exercise, like some homework, something where we had to like build a poetry book, and I done it, and then I used one of those one of those poems in this poetry festival we were having, and I ended up winning, and um and I always had an issue with authority, so every now and then I get a call home from the school. However, Miss Hidden was the first and only teacher to ever call my house with good news. And I don't know, and I always say, I'm like, I wonder why. I wonder if she was caught, and we're still talk, but I've never asked her why. She came to my Toronto concert, like the last Toronto concert, like
cool.
she's in my life. But when I was 13, she called the crib and said, hey, I don't know if y'all know, to my parents, Jessie's got a knack for this. Like Jessie's good at this. She's good at English. She's good at like poetry. And I always thought, I was like, I wonder if she was just so astute that she understood that, like, first of all, at home we only spoke Spanish. Like I said, Spanish was my first language. I don't know if she noticed it from parent teacher interviews, but like my mom would, she was very, as loving as she is, very disciplined, where like, oh, actually, that's a good point too, as to why I think maybe I have such a command over language and playing with words. But my mom would make me memorize. Wait, this is a story later. My mom would make me memorize things, but my dad would help me with homework when he could, with math and science and things that are universal. But English is not. English is one of the subjects that's not. And I wonder if she just realized that she was like, oh, well, her parents must know what's going on with math and what's going on with like this. But if only Spanish is spoken at the house, maybe they don't know how fluid she is with English. I gotta ask her why. Because anyways, it stuck. It stuck. Only teacher to ever call the house with good news. First one to be like, yo, these poems are good. And it was so cool because then years after, when I was doing this thing with Apple and we were doing this like mini doc, and they were like, is there anyone you want to bring back? And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna hit Miss Hidden. She had kept my poetry,
Oh wow.
and she uses it as a example in her
That's
class.
so cool.
Fucking nuts. It was so lit. But also, so shout out to Miss Hidden, but my mom, God bless her, man, because contributed what she could, because even though it didn't have the command, like she was studying English. As I wasn't studying English, she was also studying English. You know what I mean? So you can only help as much as you can only help so much. But there was a point where we'd like, I don't know, in history, for example, and there'd be pages on, this is the one that I remember, just pages on Egypt. The kitchen table in my house was see-through. And my mom was very, like, when I tell you I memorized times tables, she'd make me memorize entire sheets. When you, like, I see your eyebrows go up, this is not an exaggeration. Entire sheets, size 12 font, Times New Roman, fucking thick. And I'd be there and I'd be like, fuck. And then my mom would be like, okay, ya está lista? I'm like, okay. And she'd sit there and I'm in the corner and she'd be like, okay, go. And then I'd have to recite it and I'd have to be on it. And if I missed the word, she'd put the sheet down. She'd be like, bueno, mija, I'll come back and like give it another. And she'd leave. And then I'd have to go. And it got to the point where I would just since it was a glass table, I would turn the sheet around and then I would slide down the sheet. And I'd be on the
just out of exhaustion.
I swear to God, hand to God, I'd be on the floor. And the sheet would be here. And I'd be like, oh, and I would just be memorizing. And then she'd come back upstairs and be like, are you ready? And I was like, yeah. And then, yeah, that's I think I read like a maniac. Miss Hidden helped me out a lot. And my mom made me memorize pages and pages and pages of literature.
That's your lyric retention right there. Because you didn't want, you were probably exhausted. You're just like, I might as well remember everything.
Yeah.
Do you remember other people's songs as well as you remember your own?
Yeah.
Isn't that exhausting to have that much information in your head?
Mm-mm.
How much do you recall other people's music when you're writing your own?
How much do I recall other people's music when I'm writing my own? I don't, because it's a different channel. It's a different state that I'm in.
Mhm.
It's more It's automatic, and it's not conscious.
What's a lyric someone else wrote that you wish you wrote?
Know that I am. Mm-mm. Yeah. If happy is her, I'm happy for you. That's funny. How am I? It's that Demi Lovato song. Fuck, man. I remember I heard that song and I like looked up the writers and I was like, who the fuck are you people? You guys
Who were the
nailed
writers
this.
on it, do you know?
These two people from far, far away that I'd never heard of in my life, and I just was in that. That song is so beautiful.
Why didn't you look up the songs I wrote for Demi and say, wow, I like this guy? Thanks a lot, bro. Okay, done with this interview. Bye. Okay, no, all right, for real. So you go from, there's a difference between I'm going to pursue this for a living to like, oh, this shit is real. I explain a little bit how you get into, the remix project and how some of these people get you from this girl's got talent to this woman is an artist.
Fuck, this is such a, I'm gonna do my best to like fly through this. So I used to do background dancing too, and I was background dancing for this artist when I was in high school.
Who was it?
This is before the Argonauts. It was two artists that had the gig that night. So it was one of these two. It was either this guy named Cuban or this guy named S. Davis. That's the night I met Phil, who was one of my best friends as well, who's now one of my videographers. He directed a lot of my videos, Hard to Love, Apple
Cool.
Juice. Yeah. I got booked for this gig as a dancer. I wasn't supposed to be in that club because I was the only underage dancer. So to get me in there, they had to put me in the middle of the of their group and like, oh, the artist is here, and like sneak me into the club that way. And I was like, oh fuck. And then this guy comes up to me and he's like, hey. And I was like, he's like, you okay? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you sure? Like pretty much just like extended out a little olive branch because saw how fucking nervous I was. Me and Jive become friends. He's working with a manager. This manager meets me, who ends up becoming one of my first, whose name is Philippe LeBlanc. Philippe LeBlanc says, "Oh, I gotta introduce you to Doc McKinney. If you don't know, Doc McKinney's a fucking legend, especially at that moment in Toronto history. Like Weeknd was bubbling up, the whole city's talking. Like it was the air was thick with fucking potential, you know. And a year before that, so when I was 16." Me and one of my homegirls, I had a cool group of friends. Like we were cool. I was really nervous about singing in front of people, and I wouldn't sing in front of people unless they closed their eyes or unless I'd be like, can y'all go into the hallway and I'll sing, or can I was just really nervous. And she was always like, Jessie, you're lit. You can't let your shyness like take over. Let's put your stuff out there. And so I'd record a cover, and she was really into online culture. She was really into online culture, and she'd be like, let's put your stuff on Twitter and let's just put it with clickbait. So we'd be like The Weeknd kissing a stripper, but it was me playing Rolling Stone on the guitar.
Smart.
Maniacs. So that was 2 years prior, right? Or a year prior when I was 16. 17, I booked a gig, meet Jive, meet Philippe, who introduces me to Doc. They bring me to the studio and I'm playing my guitar in front of Doc, and Doc's like, oh, and then I start singing. And then halfway through my song, he's like, wait a minute. And I was like, yeah. He's like, I know you. And I was like, do you? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I think Alangelo, who is another fucking lit ass producer, Alangelo showed me one of your songs, like one of your tweets. And I was like, oh, sick. And he starts laughing and we start laughing. And then we began a friendship, mentorship, man. That guy fed me a lot of advice. But it was funny because that was the first time in my life that I saw something put into practice that I wouldn't, this lesson that I learned a few years later, but it was the first example of it being put retroactively into practice, which is the like, if you're trying to break it and you're trying to break into the industry and you're trying to like meet people and shit, you need to go to events. And it doesn't matter if you don't meet the person on the first try. It doesn't matter if you don't meet the person on the second try, because your brain is literally wired to have a different reaction to familiarity. And if you go to these events or you show your face at these different places, you might not meet the person the first day or meet the person the second. But if that person and you lock eyes, by the third time you go to this event, there's going to be a subconscious deep in the subconscious level of rapport that's going to have them be maybe more receptive, more open to a possibility of connecting with you, you know? And it was just funny because I hadn't really had that, I hadn't really understood that or been taught that till years later. But when I was taught it, I connected the dots backward as to like, that's why that reaction that Doc had was so veritable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Me and Doc start working, but loosely, because obviously he's very like very, very involved with the Weeknd stuff. And I'm still trying to figure it out in other ways. But I don't stop working. I'm still doing gigs and stuff. I end up moving to Florida with my family because my dad, when they came to Canada, they came because the papers were easier to get. But my dad never really liked the cold, never like, his intention was always Florida, but it was harder to get papers for the States. And so it took my family 16 years to get legally approved, which is a whole nother political conversation, but it took them 16 years to get legally approved. When they finally got it, imagine we had been, let me not get political. It's so fucked up that people fucking criticize people that do it like illegals. That I'm like, are you fucking stupid? We were coming from the luxury of leaving Canada. We weren't being persecuted. We weren't like in danger. But if you're a father or you're a mother and you have kids that you're trying to protect and you're in a situation where you're thinking about your family surviving and you have systems in place that take decades, you think you're gonna, like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense when people lack any sort of empathy for people that are actually like trying to make sure their family stays alive and their souls didn't have the fortune of coming into a body on this side of this line. So then they need to suffer and you have no empathy, no thought process to even consider that maybe you guys are both made of the same thing. But anyways, took my family 16 years. We got it. My dad's like, it's a family thing. So if you want to slide with us, slide, or you can stay in Toronto on your own. And it's so funny how things happen because I was cheerleading for the CFL, which is like the NFL in Canada. And I was going to go audition. I auditioned for the Raptors because they paid more. And I told my dad, I was like, if I make it to the Raptors, I'm going to stay in the city. Fuck, this is not, if I make it to the Raptors, I'm going to stay in the city. Oh, this sounds so verbose, but it's a fucking good story. Please tell me to speed it up if you're like...
I'm really enjoying this.
Okay, great. So I was going to audition for the Raptors. I auditioned for the Raptors. I told my pops, I was like, if I make it, I'm staying. And he was like, all right. So they're building like, I don't know the numbers because I can't remember that well, but I'll give you an example. It was 33 girls, right? I make 3 round cuts. 3 round cuts. It's the final cut. I'm like, sick. So they only choose 32. And then they pull 5 of us apart. And I was like, what the hell? And then they get us, they're like, oh my God, we love you girls, but like, we want the fans to choose the last girl. So if the 5 of you, we want you guys to campaign. And my petty ass was like, nope, I'm not doing, like, I really wanted to be part of the squad. Like, you know, I love the city. I loved to dance at the time. But when that came up, I was like, nah, it's a sign. So I told my dad, I was like, Papi, fuck it, I'm sliding. I'm going to Florida with y'all. And so we go. And then in Florida, I get a job as a bartender, a dancing bartender. It was like a Brazilian thing. So like at 1 a.m. they blow a fucking trumpet and you run downstairs, you put on your gear, you come back upstairs, you do a little show, like a samba show, and then run downstairs, take it off, back to bartending. And that's what I was doing and still trying to hustle. So I was doing open mics down there, but it was very difficult because at least in Toronto, I had built a little bit of a community, but in Florida, it was starting from scratch, and it was starting from scratch at a time where and drugs was the like...
Yeah.
So what I was bringing didn't really match that. So it was so difficult. And I found refuge in the internet. And so I would do a lot of my networking on the internet and connect and still stayed in touch with a lot of people from back home. One of the people was Doc McKinney. We were on a Skype call. Skype, that was it. Yeah, we were on a Skype call. And I was complaining like a motherfucker because I was still trying to like, just imagine, I don't have funds. But I'm working with people that also find passion in music or that have a passion for music. But I wanted beats. Producers wouldn't send it on time. I wanted this. And I was always very hungry. And it would frustrate the shit out of me that I couldn't find a match of urgency. And so I'm talking big shit. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, people want to do this. They don't follow through. People want to do this. They want to follow through. And Doc was like, Like he was like, And then finally, like what seemed like 100 hours after, he was like, done? And I was like, yeah. I'm like steamed out. He's like, Jessie, you got to do what you can where you're at with whatever you got. if you're waiting on this, if you're waiting for producers, learn how to make beats. If you're waiting on, he pretty much just like laid it out flat, very, very
Real
succinctly.
advice.
Real advice. If you're waiting for this, do it. He's like, because people are going to use you as the gauge for the energy that they have to bring, and you're going to attract that. But that's what you have to do. And that shit flicked the switch in me, and I sat back and I was like, fuck, okay. I had one song that I made with Jive from before. I linked with a friend of a friend that I went to high school with online that I knew in Florida. So like it was someone that a friend of a friend that was also in Florida that had a camera that was doing some camera work. And I was like, you want a link? And they were like, sure. And I was like, cool. So then we went to the beach and shot a music video. And then when they were dropping me off home, the little thing that Doc said kind of stayed. And I was like, hey, can you send me the footage? And they were like, what? And I was like, just send me the footage. I'll edit it. Because I know that if I wasn't paying him, and I was like, this is going to take, just give me the footage. He's like, you don't know how to edit. I'm like, don't worry about it. He gave me the footage. Hand to God, I stayed up 48 hours on YouTube. And mind you, this is when we're living in Florida, but we didn't have a crib yet. We didn't have papers, like our proper papers yet. So we're living at my cousin Virginia's house. And it's me, my mom, and my dad in one bedroom. And my little cousin in the other. This is a little hectic. Stayed up till 4. Shout out to my parents because they could have complained because I had the computer on and the headphones on, and they're like, I'm on a pull-out couch and they're on the bed. Like, it was a lot, but I figured it out. 48 hours straight. The next day, I go online and I post that shit fucking everywhere. And this is at a time where I don't know if you can still do this, but on Facebook you could look up a company and then anyone affiliated with that company would show up.
Cool.
So I looked up like Much Music and who was affiliated. I'd look up labels, who was affiliated. I'd look up all these things. And so funny because a lot of people that I sent it, like Addie, I sent it to. A lot of people that I ended up connecting with years later would be like, yo, we got sent this.
You sent it to Aaron.
I sent it to Aaron. Crazy. I sent it to Aaron, who's one of my fucking brothers, and I slept on his couch, this is a whole other story too, but crazy.
Staying up 48 hours, releasing this.
Thank you. One of the people that got it was Mauricio Ruiz, and he was like, yo, your music's cool, the video's sus, but the music's lit. And then we started talking, and then he told me about this thing called the Remix Project in Toronto. Yeah. And then I begged my bar manager for the weekend off because I didn't want to lose my job because this was my only, And Rob, shout out Rob, he was like, all right, cool, take the weekend. And I got a $50 flight on Spirit Airlines. It was $25 to Buffalo and $25 back. Had a homie pick me up there, went for the weekend, auditioned, and then came back and then worked some more months to like make more money, and then I made it. And so I moved back home, and then me and Rui start working together, and then I met King Louis from Chicago. That's why I fucking love Chicago so much, because King Louis another one, shout out King Louis, who like added this shit is so nuts every time I talk about it because it's just so funny that it's just nuts. King Louis came, we talked.
It's like all these people who come into your life that
contribute
seemingly out of nowhere, but like like you were saying when I said, what would you tell younger self? You're like, I don't know. I like where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And, maybe you tell younger self, like, just trust me.
Just trust
Go
me.
on this ride.
Yeah.
Because it'll be wild when you see what happens at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Just go. I wouldn't even say
I think
shit.
the thing's also like, we'll go back to King Louis, but like when you say like you posted links with some weird clickbait, it's like, it's the shit you wouldn't do as a grown up. But as a kid, you have no inhibitions. You have nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
And the stuff that the people I reached out to when I first was starting, I used to pretend to be I've said this story before on this, but like I used to pretend to be my roommate. I started a record company in college, and I would be like, my name's Mike Thompson, who's passed away, but my name's Mike Thompson, and I have this artist you need to hear, Ross Golan. And I used to go in, and I got some good meetings out of just calling.
Fire.
There was a book called The Yellow Pages of Rock, which really dates me, but in it was literally the direct line to everybody at every major publishing and record company. But this book cost a fortune, and I knew some guy who had one that was 2 years old. So he was like, oh, you can have it. It's 2 years old. I didn't care. I still called the numbers and was like, hey, I'm Mike Thompson. Hey, I'm Mike Thompson. Hey, I'm Mike Thompson. Like I would ended up in LA going to all these meetings. I wouldn't do that now. And I don't I wish I would. It'd be great right now if I went through the every A&R numbers, and just called them all and said, like, what are you up to right now? What are you up to right now? But you become like jaded and like, oh, I don't know. I can't do that now. But none of those people were mad. Some of those people hung up. Most of them hung up. Most of them didn't return it. But like, you're allowed to be a little bit wild and do some things that are not totally kosher if it gets you in the door. I get it. And lastly, on the immigration thing, a couple years ago, we found my grandma's warrant for her arrest because U.S. wouldn't let in Jews, so they moved to Nicaragua. And so my family all to get into the U.S., my grandma was pregnant and was, basically like they were running from authorities. So they had my mom in New York. And now then she became like that, like the head of the medical school at Northwestern. Crazy. Or like this amazing cardiologist, an incredible cardiologist, brilliant person. And but she was a Jew, so like that was the line, like the arbitrary line in these imaginary borders. Yeah. But all you had to do is come through the Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America.
We can talk about that again later. Okay, so we're at King Louis, which now gets us into like the kind of like the stuff that people know of you, and just to work through it a little bit. It's not like, you're clearly working with some names, but not, there's a difference between I'm aspiring, now I have potential, to then figures, which is, did you feel the shift in your career when that song took off?
Mauricio didn't really know what he was doing because he hadn't been in management. And he'd get advice from one of his friends, who's Byron Wilson, who's my manager, and he sent my music to Jeremiah Thomas and Byron and Aaron Sunreal. Shout out Vernon. Is one of the couches I used to sleep in when I started coming, and then naturally the team grew because things started growing. And me and Mauro, we were just like new into this. And Biz knew what he was doing because he had already worked with, Byron knew what he was doing because he worked with Unreal. And then we started working on my first EP. Jeremiah heard my stuff from LA, said, you're dope, you have potential. Got BMG to fucking fly me out to Sweden before me even signing a contract because I have trust issues and I had heard so many fucking horror stories. In Sweden, I'm working for like a week on other artists, like just as a writer. Meet two producers named Priest and the Beast who say, you're dope. We believe in you, even though I had nothing out. We're like, we believe in you. We want to keep you here for an extra week on our dollar, and we can work on whatever you want. Pitch your stuff, whatever you want. And I was like, fire. That week, I ended up writing Love in the Dark. I ended up writing Figures. I come back to the States. I was very fucked up because I was just, things were rough. Drinking a lot, depressed. A lot. So I was happy to stay in Sweden because a lot of the shit that was happening was in Toronto.
Why were you drinking a lot?
Why not? It was just, things were heavy and it would numb a lot. It would numb a lot. And also it had become second nature because I spent so much time in the nightlife industry that it had just become second nature. Anyways, I fly back to LA. I get in the car. I get in Busy's car. Busy is Byron. People always get confused because I always fucking switch back and forth. From this point on, he's Biz. I get in Biz's car. And he's like, what's up? I don't even know. You remember this more than I.
Yeah, this was like day one of me and you actually being like, man.
Like on it, yeah. And he was like, yeah. And he was like, what's up? And then I don't know if you asked me. I don't remember, but apparently I played him Figures. And I'm just sitting there like depressed. And he's like, he heard it and he was like, what the fuck? Like, it was lost on me because I was just so deep in my shit that I was just sad. But not Biz. Biz was happy. Biz was happy. Anyways, Figures comes out. The three of us fucking do the video. The three of us put it out. And then out of fucking nowhere, I didn't really grasp what was happening. And I remember you guys trying to tell me. because the email looked like a refresh on Twitter page because it was just like label, artist, and every time they'd like it was nuts. It looked like ¿cómo se llama eso en los casinos? Like a slot machine. That's what it looked like. And I just remember the look on your guys' faces, like, "Yo, Jessie, this is," and I was like, like, because I didn't really understand.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was happening.
I kind of think you're not supposed to understand your first hit. I think I'm so happy that my first songs didn't work. Just for that, I had to go like same thing of like you travel, you're kind of depressed, you have to go through your phase of like some self-sabotage and all this stuff. And then when it happens, you're kind of like, I don't know. I think a lot of people have this idea of there.
Of what?
There. Like they always wanted to get a hit. And then they realize, oh, I'm just Jessie with a hit. I'm just Ross with a hit, whatever it is. And you have this moment of just like, oh, okay. I'm not really grasping what this is, but like if you're trying to take it in, most of the people I know who try to take it in, it inflates like an ego. It creates like unreasonable expectations. It becomes this whole other thing other than the experience of like not of just you're just living it. It's probably the healthiest way to digest a hit like that. Versus had that happened when you were 16, you would have been that crying kid in your orchestra class or whatever, choir or wherever you were doing it, in your music class. And you're going to be the kid who's going to then be in front of people. Like, no wonder why those kids are the fucked up superstars later. Because like they don't understand, they're having that moment, and their expectations are, of course, I get this.
Mm-hmm. Crazy, eh?
Not like, oh, I've gone through like a life of like having to work.
Yeah.
To earn, you earned it the hard way.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't. That was your experience.
Me too.
Our listeners love how songs are made, so I gotta just ask, like, you're at that week in Sweden and you write 2 big songs. Tell me about the day you wrote Figures.
It was the last day, and everyone. Remember, I was like, it was a week of the songwriters and then a week of just me. The week of the songwriters had ended, so everyone had got home, and it was supposed to be just me. Shy Carter, who's amazing, love Shy, ended up staying.
Yeah, legend.
He's so sick, and such a good vibe. Such a good vibe.
His is one of my favorite interviews we've ever done.
Really?
But, I love Shy.
Me too.
It was such a great interview.
Such a good vibe.
Such a legend.
Anyway,
sorry, I don't mean to.
No, but he is such a legend. He is such a legend. Yeah. He's it's just so great when someone is that talented and also great. Like, every time I see him, my heart smiles. He's just a great guy. I'm working with Priest and the Beast. You know how it is, like you're in a studio, like we're working on songs coming out, we're vibing. He wasn't supposed to be there. So funny how it's so fucking wild how shit happens because he wasn't supposed to be there. He ended up staying. He popped in and he gave me arguably the thing. He gave me the crack of the song. He gave me the. He gave me that post. And some people could be like, oh, like verses matter, choruses matter. And of course they do. But there's certain things in songs that are this is the condensed crack. This is the condensed crack that's going to fucking slide in and throw their bag on the floor and be like, this is where I'm living. That's what that is. And I'm forever grateful to him. He's lit. And also, not for nothing, because I was in such a fucked up place, having that sort of spirit, because he's a light being. He's a light being, like, through and through. And I just remember, like, the song is it's just very real. I just remember having a bottle in my hand and being like, and him just trying to be like, it's gonna be okay. Yeah. It's gonna be okay. Him and Germ was there that week too. Georgia Koo was there that day or that week. Mm-hmm. Like that whole week, I was just going fucking through it. I was going through it, and it's just nice to have good people around you when you're in the throes of heartbreak.
One of the things you released after the success of that is Gatekeeper, which I know you've spoken extensively about. Talking about sexism and sexual assault and misogyny in the music industry is something that I feel like in many ways this industry got a pass during MeToo. And I feel like it was important to have people who had a voice to tell their story.
Mhm.
Do you think we've improved at all as an industry?
Yeah, but I don't say that as a blanket statement or as a like. I think we've improved because I think shame is a very real factor that I love being employed because people are cognizant of it. A lot more men are cognizant of it, you know? And I think it's a great thing that's improved, but I say that optimistically,
Sure.
very optimistically, because there's always room for improvement. Some people, I mean, I could argue it politically or give you like an analogy politically, because some people, when a leader is in a position that argues things one way and makes it publicly okay to lean that way, then everybody with those hidden things all of a sudden feels like it's okay. That works the other way as well. When someone is shaming something, then everyone's like, oh shit. And some people could argue maybe that's not the best thing because then it becomes more covert. And so you don't know who you're dealing with. But if you're asking me to choose the lesser of two evils, I'd rather someone scared to show me their bullshit and act accordingly than someone feel comfortable with their bullshit out on the table because it's not acceptable. So if fear is what is keeping a lot of piece of shit men in place, I will take it.
Hey,
I'll take it.
amen. You responded to that situation with Kiddo, and it really like blows up your career. All that's kind of at the same time. And in Canada, you kind of become Canadian royalty, during that. Is how much of making it through difficult times like that how much of that inspired your career to move up a level?
Because it was something that was relevant to, it's still relevant now, but it was something that was newly relevant to culture at the time. It was like ominous timing because it wasn't ever done consciously to be like, we're going to release this song at this time because it's relevant to what's happening. Like, it was never that. It was fucking spooky at how weird the timing had worked out. The silver lining is that, yeah, it made it connect with more people because it was a topic that was at the forefront of a lot of, yeah, it was a topic that was at the forefront. But as a human being, it was a difficult moment because the onslaught of women that came forward directly, and now with the internet, like, you have DMs and comments and all these things, like, you wouldn't I mean, I'm sure you'd believe it now, but at the time I was incredulous. Like, you wouldn't believe the amount of messages of like, this guy did this, did this, did this, thank you for speaking out. This guy did this and this and this, thank you for speaking out. This guy did that and that. This, like, it was it was nonstop. It was nonstop. And I was happy that women had found something that helped them, but it broke my fucking heart to see how common and how normal and how it was a heavy thing to carry. It was a heavy thing to carry. So yeah, the silver lining is that it was relevant. So So the song permeated more and the topic permeated more and people heard my shit, but it was double-edged because it was shitty to know that so many people relate.
Yeah, and I mean your bravery in that we always try to get artists to be vulnerable because that vulnerability is often relatable, but it takes a true bravery to be vulnerable as an artist. And then to be vulnerable like that is a next level of bravery that no wonder that that's what these people could it heals a lot of people. And that's, it's because of that vulnerability that other people felt like they could be brave too. Like I was saying, the success in Canada, you start getting all the Juno awards and nominations and whatnot. Canada is filled with legends. It's, I believe, a smaller population than California, and yet in every genre, it seems to have the best. Has Celine Dion and Bublé, and The Weeknd and Drake and Bieber, and it's just like this long list of people who are at the tops.
And Alanis and Alessia and Nelly.
Yeah, keep going. Why are Canadians the best?
I think, especially in Toronto, we benefit from what we were talking about earlier, like the cyclical nature of our seasons. I think gives us a different sense of A, what it is to blossom in the summer, but B, and more importantly, what it is to be reclusive. Because as an artist, the idea of going into yourself and going into a cave and finding what's in there, and if you have alchemy on your right hand and nothing but material on your left, and you're in a space that allows time, and cave where there's reverb because you have space and darkness, it gives you an opportunity to create in a different way that someone maybe in a constantly sunny place wouldn't, because you don't have those cycles. You're not at the mercy of cycles, and you're not at the mercy of open space and darkness to just let your artist be, to let your artistic nature kind of find something to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that contributes to a lot of what Canada has created.
Coming off of the success of an artist, you end up working with, any lyricist, dream writer, Eminem.
Mm-hmm.
How do you meet Eminem?
I met Eminem because the thing I mentioned earlier about familiarity came to play because he had seen me on a late night show where I was doing Gatekeeper. And he was like, yo, she's dope. And it stayed. And then a few months after, his daughter had brought me up and was like, yo, Jessie's blowing. Like, he saw me again and was like, Jessie's blowing up. You should hit her up. Like, pretty much threw my hat. I just threw my name in the hat. And then his team reached out.
Yeah, it was when he was headlining Coachella. He was in LA during that week.
Right.
Oh, crazy.
Reached out randomly. Yeah. And then we were in the city too, and we were like, fuck it, let's go. And I remember being in the car being fucking nervous because I've worked with some great fucking people. I've worked with some legends, and I'm pretty good for maintaining my equanimity, like my emotional. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. There have been 2 times in my life I have not been okay. And one of them was with Eminem, and I was like, and I just remember vividly praying, and I was like, please, Lord, because at that time, I don't write anymore. But at that time, I would, sometimes the thing would just come. Sometimes the inspo would just come and it would be woof. Or sometimes like the faucet's open and then sometimes the faucet drips. And when the faucet drips, then I have to build. Right? And I remember praying, I was like, Lord, let the faucet be open so that I'm not, especially in front of him. Like I wanted to just woof. And then I walked in and they played a beat. We said hi. First of all, when we said hi, I was so fucking nervous already. But then we go into the studio. I heard some music and I was like, all right, and I shut my eyes. And then it came. And I was like, yes. Thank God. And that was the good guy, right?
Yeah.
Because nice guy, and I didn't play till after. Nice guy we gave him, yeah. So yeah, that's how that happened.
You said there were two people who made you nervous. Eminem was one. Who's the other?
Beyonce. Yeah.
We could jump to that.
Okay.
How did you meet Beyonce?
Well, I met her by way of Jay-Z and Made in America. Why is
The fact that you have this Mount Rushmore of rappers in your phone when you're like, so I was hanging out with Eminem. Oh, and then when Jay-Z says, it's like that's
it's
not normal, right?
Very,
okay.
yeah, very not normal.
Just wanted to remind that, make sure you knew that. That's an abnormal thing to have in your telephone.
It's fucked. Yeah.
When you met Beyonce, what was it like?
Right. It was fucked. It was so fucked. We were doing Made in America. Did the VMAs the night before. This is why this is also pertinent to the story, because when Figures popped off, labels started coming to, like, they smelled blood in the water, and it was crazy because we ended up being in a bidding war, and we got wined and dined up the ass. It was crazy. It was nuts. And again, I didn't realize what was happening, but it was like president dinner over here, president dinner over here. And then it elevated to, like, it wasn't like the sub labels. It was like a Sony, Warner, Universal thing.
Yeah.
I remember when we decided to go to Island, and we ended up going to Island because that's where Jeremiah went, who was one of my guys that made sense because it just made sense. I remember feeling douchey about, I was like, I feel like people just took us on dates and now we're dumping people because we're going to wife them over here and this feels douchey. So I want to call them. And so I called this shit was not easy to fucking do. Thank you. Goddamn right, good for me. Because I did it. And it was crazy because I could tell some people switched immediately, which is fine. This is fucking LA, whatever. But some people were like,
yeah,
you could just feel it. And then some people, like Tai, it was all right. It was cool. It's love, regardless. And it was so cool to see the follow through, because this is after the fact, after we had signed with someone else, but Rock Nation still showed mad love. And so we did Made in America. And then Tai hit us and was like, you want to come, or I don't remember who it was, but we got brought back to where, like, it wasn't backstage. It was like backstage. And then Jay's like, yeah, come meet B. And I was like, okay. And we go, oh, this is so fucking, I hate telling this story because it's just, luckily I've had more interactions with her. So this isn't her only memory of me. But we go upstairs, talking to everybody. And then I go meet her and I'm like, hi, say hello. And then we're talking for a bit. And this is very surreal in my head that it's happening. And they're like, how are you? And I'm like, good. And then we talk a bit about, she was like, great performance. And I was like, this one? And she was actually, she said no, she was referencing the VMA performance the night before because she had seen that one. Fucked. She had seen that one. And then whatever, the convo continues. And then they were like, how you feeling? And I, with my whole, this, how you feeling? And I was like, hungry. And they start laughing and they're like, well, Jessie, there's like food and stuff. And then I, without breaking contact, said, no, I'm hungry for life.
Oh, man.
I said, no, I'm hungry for life. And they started giggling and I was like, I felt my stomach go like this and I was like, And then I look up at my managers because they're not paying it. Y'all were talking to someone else. And I look up at them and then the convo continues a bit. And I look up at them and I'm like, and I look up at JB and I was like, I got to go. I'll be right back. Like, I got to go. And my managers were like, where the fuck do you got to go? What do you mean where the fuck do you got to be outside of right here? And I was like, I got to go. I'll be back.
Yeah.
And I go outside and I find a piece of fucking grass and I sit my ass down. And I meditate and I'm like, I gotta come back to fucking earth because this is ridiculous. Like, clearly that wasn't me. Clearly I just gotta reconnect and get control of this because she don't got control right now. And then I just did some breathing and then thank God for the moment because I couldn't believe the moment that was happening. And then I went back upstairs and I was halfway back to human, which was great. And I was able to behave.
Sometimes we're hungry for life. Sometimes we're hungry for life. Okay, so, you know, along with your with some name dropping, you know, you end up on I know I'm going a little out of order, but you know, you end up on Coachella and it gets canceled. I was using I told a story, I know this is yours and not mine, but I was on Lollapalooza the last year of the tour when it was in like it was I think in 36 cities. And they decided to make it 2 nights in each city instead of 1 because it was so successful. But what happened was when you did 2 nights, all the people who weren't performing night 1 were doing a show night 2. And the whole tour just went away. And our release gets pushed like 8 months later. And it was like, you end up on a tour, you end up on a show like that, your career starts to focus around that kind of performance and the press and all this stuff. Granted, there were other things going on the planet. It wasn't the only thing that was canceled, but the cancellation of Coachella and what was supposed to be the beginning of the Billie Eilish tour that you were on. How does an artist navigate pitfalls in the industry that are out of their control?
You keep it moving. You keep it fucking moving. Also, I am very grateful, and I say this a lot. Like, my squad, my team is very, very dope. Very, very dope. Because to be honest, I had my own shit going on outside of artists and outside of COVID and outside of like the gigs. Like, I had my own struggles, my own mental shit, I had my own struggles that were very thick at the time. And it was just, I've been really fortunate to have a team that I can lean on that haven't let the ball drop. God bless you, love you. That haven't let the ball drop when I have. Not to say I dropped the ball there, but I was caught up on my own shit. And not losing enthusiasm and not losing, like, even the fact that we were willing to put out an album at the beginning of the fucking pandemic is scary, spooky, and I only was able to do that because I had a team of people that were also down for the Wild Wild West. You know what I mean? Because it was spooky. You don't know how it was just spooky. No one was fucking doing it. I'm pretty sure it was me and like one more person that decided to release anyway. And so many fucking at-home concerts and doing fucking. I think I did one of the like late night shows in my bathroom.
So real.
Jimmy Kimmel from my bathroom.
Well, what an era. I mean, it's going to be so hard to explain that to like, I got a 1-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and it's going to be hard to explain.
Ew.
Like, hey.
This is so ancient. We sound so back in the COVID times.
I mean, it's going to be that. You meet, 2024, you come out of COVID where a lot of musicians lost momentum. You come out and you meet Calvin Harris, or maybe you obviously met him before that. How do you meet Calvin Harris?
How do I meet Calvin? I met Calvin to him in his story. He saw figures online and then he reached out to me in DM and was like, yo, you're dope. People in the city are excited about you. I think you should know that. And I was like, what the fuck? I remember seeing it and I remember not believing the DM. And I remember going to the website to going back to his page to be like, no fucking way. And then answered him and I was like, this is insane. You're fucking legend. Thank you. And then we talked a bit and he was like, I'm working on this project. Would love to have you here. And then he flew me and one of my managers out. And it was only supposed to be a two-day plan. And it turned into a week. And then it turned into like, and we just kind of like, that's my guy. That's my bro. But to me, when this is when what year, whatever, it was that year that you mentioned. What was that?
2024 is what I have as like the songs coming out.
No, I was
Was it before that?
before the pandemic is when One Kiss came out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
but that was what 20.
That you guys probably started working in
2017.
Oh,
Sure.
wow.
2017 we started working. However, I met him in 2009 because
Crazy.
this is when I was working as a receptionist and at like the gym, and I was doing the like music hustle on the side. And I was just focused, and I didn't want to waste time, especially because I worked bars. So like when my friends would be like, let's go party, let's go to this rave, I'd be like, nah, unless I'm bringing mixtapes with me, I don't want to go waste time. Unless I'm making money at the bar or unless I'm bringing mixtapes, I'm not trying to go. And they're like, come on, bitch, like we'll pay for your ticket. Like they would thug it out. And I was like, fine. So I justified it by they're paying for my ticket and I'm bringing my mixtapes. So I had my little satchel and I had like CDs that I would burn and I'd get paper and stick the CD, close the paper, make a fucking ghetto ass envelope and put my name and my number and a happy face and bless it and had like 5 of these in my bag. And this thing at Government, that was this legendary place in Toronto where they used to have raves, had this event called Labor of Love. And Calvin Harris was playing, Cascade was playing, Steve Aoki was playing in his different rooms. And I got there and I'm like, I'm on a fucking mission. And I gave a mixtape to Steve Aoki. I gave a mixtape to Cascade. And when I went into but it was intense. Like one of the rooms, one of my friends had to put me on his shoulder and we went up to the podium and I was like, and they were like, what the fuck? And that was Cascade. And Cascade, I ended up getting an answer from the next day because I would spam their fucking Facebook and they were like, hey, yeah, we got it. But at the end of the night, we couldn't find the mixtape. Sorry. And I was like, cool. But in another room, it was Calvin, and Calvin's DJ podium was in the middle of the stage. And it had like 3 feet of width so my arm wouldn't reach. So I had to sneak onto the stage. So I looked at my friends. I was like, I guess I got to do this one on my own. They don't give a shit. They're high. They're like, whatever. And I was like, cool. So I run to the stage. I got to the corner where security isn't looking. And then I jump on. And I'm like hiding in like this is I'm hiding and I'm tiny. So it was cool. I'm like, cool. As soon as the security's not looking, I'm like, and I run to his fucking, this is so stupid. But again, the shit you do when you're a kid, when you have no sense of behavior, no sense of etiquette, zero. He's in the middle of his fucking set. And I run up to the podium and I'm like, hey, and he's like, what the fuck? And I take my little disc out and I'm like waving it in front of him. And he looks up and he's kind of like, he's not mad. He's kind of like, what is happening? And then when someone from his team peeps game and they're like, shit, and they run up and they like yank the CD from me and I'm like, thank you. They yank the CD from me and then I look this way and security realizes what's happening and they start running towards me. I got more discs in my bag. I'm like, I can get kicked out. So I fucking run off stage and I go, woo, and I melt into the crowd. And I didn't get kicked out, didn't get caught. And then I go to my friends. My friends are like, yeah, like it was success. But it was so funny because then the first day I had the session with Calvin, I didn't say shit. Because I needed to, like, I was like, this guy's going to think I'm fucking nuts. I got to wait till the end of the session. And I was like, so we've met. And then I told him the story, which is nuts.
Did he remember the story?
Hell no, he didn't fucking remember the story.
That's another one of those things where you think that where your mom says to you, like, just so you know, and you're like, I was fine with it. You're sitting there being like, I can't tell Calvin this. It's like, my Chicago accent just came out and said Calvin. One Kiss and Promises are both just so massive and they happen right at the same time. Like, as far as like, generally speaking, do you think you've made it?
I'm grateful for where I'm at, but I have more goals. But my goals have like, yeah, it depends who you ask. If you're asking little me, if you're asking current me, if you're asking teenage me, yeah.
Let's ask little you first.
Yeah.
You've made it?
Yeah.
Let's ask teenage you.
No.
What does she want?
She wanted some wild shit. She wanted world domination.
What about adult you?
Oof, adult me wants peace.
Huh.
Yeah, adult me wants peace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like being in the room with Calvin? What is the creative process like?
He's great. This is my friend, so like we talk for a bit, and then man, I love working with people that just respect freedom, and he'll play some shit and let me be,
Yeah.
and then I'll just like make, and it's just raw and big, and then I'll give it to him, and then he's got that fucking ear and that thing and that compass where he'll be like, okay, this is lit, this is not, this is lit, let's put this here, and then it is.
Yeah.
You know, he's got that fucking thing that's so lit, and I've learned a lot from him, like watching him work and watching like everyone I work with.
It's a different skill.
It's a different skill.
Yeah.
It's a different skill, and it's a skill I've learned. Like after working with him, I've become much more cutthroat when it comes to my editing. You know?
Yeah.
Much more cutthroat when it comes to my editing. But
you
that
become
was
faster at like, this isn't good enough.
Huh?
You become faster at this.
So much faster. Yeah.
You know,
so much more detached.
And, yeah. And when the thing is, when you work outside of music, one of the most valuable skill sets songwriters have is when they work outside of songwriting, they're so used to being wrong 50%, 33%, 25% of the time, whatever it is, or 75%, it's the opposite. You're so used to being wrong that you're okay to, even if you know that what you're bringing can be like the Shy Carter melody, you know, it's like you're okay being like, so, you know, somebody saying, I don't know if this is right. You're not sitting there being kicking and screaming. You're just like, okay, fine, let's go.
Keep it moving.
Next one.
Keep it moving.
So, you know,
he's great. He's a legend. He's made me a better artist by working with him.
Your album that just came out, Paid in Memories. What's the story behind the title of Paid in Memories?
It's a nice little microcosm of the idiom, money won't make you happy. Yeah, money won't make you happy. And a life well lived is a life rich in memories.
It's a really good album.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to a segment. I'm going to name 5 things. Just tell me it comes off the top of your head.
Okay.
Eminem.
Go.
Jay-Z.
Go.
Beyonce. Calvin Harris.
Go and fucking homie.
I just wanted to list those because it's funny. And Billie Eilish. Why not?
Go.
Okay. All right. And then I'll just add a couple too. Your mom.
Angel.
Your dad.
A thug.
Sick. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me. This was nice. Thank you. I love doing these when they feel like, it's just so nice because you don't often have recognizance or opportunities to do accurate recognizance of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. It's like, remember albums? Remember looking at photo albums when that was a thing? And it was just so nice. And there's studies that are shown that used to give people so much happiness. And now that we have these, there's so much more content that there's almost less time to even go over what you've done. So thank you, because it's so nice to live these moments and actually go through them, because it gives me joy. Yeah. You know, like to remember that I'm like, this isn't normal, and this just isn't what we're doing here, and the fact that you gave a fuck, the fact that people give a fuck about songs I wrote because I was sad when I was 16 is insane. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this. I think the fact that you can again articulate the complexities of your journey and recognize where you're at now, that the goal is peace, will allow for all the abundance to come. And I think we as an industry need to continue to highlight what's important in our art form, especially with the way music's being created now and being distributed now, that if it isn't about the real humans who make the music, I'm not really sure what we're doing, because it's going to get a lot easier to make music without real humans. So, thank you for putting out real music and working with a lot of our friends, keeping them all employed. You know,
Amen.
you're great. Thank you.
Thank you. Sweet.
There you go.